can't be too prideful, too stubborn to not step across that line to say, I can't do it on my own, I need help. Your ego is not important. What's more important is to put food on the table.
I understand that people might look at me and say, well, you're getting a handout, and I've done everything that I can do to make myself better.
It's like my dreams out of reach, this pain and all this grief. If you see God and you happen to speak, tell him it's crazy in these streets. Feel my pain and get so deep, that make it hard to sleep. If you see God and you happen to speak, tell him it's crazy in these streets. Tell him it's crazy.
There's a certain amount of pride that comes in being independent. And there's a certain amount of shame that comes into having to beg for every little thing that you get.
It's crazy in these streets, and it's hard right now to start judging. But when you get enough,
when you have to struggle paycheck to paycheck, it's a hard thing.
There's no way that I can continue to do this and survive with it. Just can't do it.
I mean, I've had my gas shut off, I've had my electric shut off. It's horrifying, and it's embarrassing when your kids go to turn on something and it doesn't work.
I've seen a change not only with income, but I can see a change in the people.
You try to fight yourself out of it, but you can't. You can't. My income right now, between about $11,000 to $15,000.
The bottom fell out. And that bottom was that line. They went below that line.
Poverty is just every day for me.
In my opinion, poverty is more like not having enough to get by, or just having the bare minimums of what is like expected of an actual lifestyle. Like most people think of their American dream as being the it factor in being in America, like having that house, that car, that family, with that husband or wife with the kids and everything else. But most people just don't get it that easy. So in my case, like, I see poverty as being at not necessarily the bottom of the barrel, but being at the bottom, only having what you need and what you can get in order to get by.
Poverty affects the lives of young people throughout the educational process. I know of situations to where there were several young people, let's say of one household, who actually were homeless. So they would have to actually live at the mission, but yet still, they would still come to school in the morning, but they would leave here and they would have to sit around and kind of wait or do their studies at school or do their studies sometime in between here and at night.
So poverty has an effect on every aspect of a child. Primarily, obviously, as an educator, that's the first thing I think about. Children that don't come to school ready to learn, so that means their basic needs aren't met. If they're concerned about where they're living, so maybe if they're homeless or they're cohabitating with other families, you know, they're not in a space of their own, it definitely affects their ability to come to school, feel confident, and ready to learn.
It affects child development very greatly. A child can't learn if he's hungry, so a child may not grow the way he's supposed to grow or gain the amount of information each school year he's supposed to gain. A child may not have the stuff that he needs for school, so he's lacking in what he's supposed to learn that year, so he might get held back because he don't know enough information. They can't study for tests when they're worrying about how lights are going to be paid or how they're going to eat the next day, so it affects it very greatly.
My experience working in Title I schools, some things that you see as a result of lower income families is a decrease in parent engagement. You know, when you have families that are either single parent or multiple children and they are living in poverty, which is essentially, you know, a Title I school sometimes, those families, they're more focused on providing for their family than engaging in the educational process with their children. So that's a huge gap that I've seen at a Title I school. On the, I guess, positive side of that, you do get more funding. And so when you have a school that's staffed dedicated to supporting the students, there are resources in place to help those students be successful.
Today I want to talk about something that we all know goes on in this world, but yet we choose to ignore. It's called poverty. A word that some of us may never understand because we're blinded by the luxuries given to us at the tip of our hands. It happens to the minority, the ones with no authority, a silent prison with no walls. They feel like they're in captivity to this word called poverty. But really, we're the minority, the minor population, and the people in Africa, Asia, and South America, the majority, but their daily duty is to help out in the community, to walk in the desert for 4 hours to give a sip of water to their brothers and sisters. And that's the reality. While up here, we throw buckets of cold water in our heads as a fun activity. Talk about sustainability. That shirt you wear that says Nike was once made by a 5-year-old kid in Bangladesh with no family. And that bottle of water doesn't mean a lot to me. But to a kid in Cambodia, that bottle of water could save his life. And that fun game we call Call of Duty is the harsh reality of the kids in Afghanistan who learn how to kill a man before they become a man. And that's the reality of this word called poverty. And why is it that North America, the minor population, makes 30 times more than the majority? To me, that's insanity. And we should be sharing evenly to the people in poverty. Am I not the only one who feels guilty? I'm sorry. I'm sorry to that 15-year-old boy who was born on the same day as me and who's held in captivity to this word called poverty.